So this morning I'm reminded of Numbers 11, right? When the Israelites were, like in the desert and they were just complaining. Manna, manna, el katach is not manna. Manna evening, manna breakfast, manna. I'm sure they're probably even drinking manna macho. For sure, what I say. They're just like manna, manna, manna. I got smoke for manna. And they started complaining that in Egypt they had garlic and onions and like they had versatility and I'm sure spices. And so they're just looking back to the pots of Egypt now. And so they complained and complained and complained. And so eventually Moses like took it to God, and God was like, you know what? They're not complaining against you, obviously. It's about me. But you know what? By the end of this day, I will give them what they're craving for. No? So they were told, Vranje. And then the scripture says, quail rained. Do you get what I'm saying? So let vlees gaat, like they got the meat that they were craving for. But before they even, there's a particular verse that I love. It's like before they could even swallow it, before they could even swallow what they craved for, like they died. God was like, whoop, wiped them out. And it was only the remnant that remained. And so, chapter 11 verse 34 says, there the place, okay, let me read from 33. It says, but while the meat was still between their teeth and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore the place was named Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people who craved other food. There they buried the people who craved other food. So as I was praying this morning, like one of the lessons, at least, that I was extracting from this was like we crave other food, but especially like wanting to be gods in our lives, and to be cognizant of the fact that our lives generally happen in times and seasons, and the enemy is aware of these times and seasons. And then when it's time for God to even to transition you, right, the enemy comes, like especially with an alluring past. And so I was just reminded of a time, like like consecutively at like specific intervals in my life, where a number that I'd blocked would like call me. But because I blocked the number, the call doesn't come through. But like sometimes maybe like as I'm randomly like going through my phone, or like maybe I was about to dial somebody and I will see it there, like the number I tried to call, but it just shows blocked. So it doesn't ring when it calls. I just go and see it like, oh, it had called. And there were several times like I was actually tempted to like want to call the number back, like just out of curiosity, like, oh, because especially like consistently at specific times, right? That over the time the person would like try and call, the person would call, and I would just look at the thing and I would ignore it, because somehow at this, you see, this is what I love about God, right? Like God will always equip you with information. God will always equip you with information. God will always equip you. Like scripture is a beautiful reference for equipping us as well. Nah. And so God would so beautifully equip me. So that there was a time when I was so super aware and very diligent about times and seasons. Because one of the things that God had taught me, so I was like very aware of like times and seasons of my life. I was very aware of, because one of the things that God had taught me like during this year especially was be aware of the signs, right? Or something in that line. I think I made a video about it. Something about being aware of signs, right? Because technically there's certain things that only happen during certain times. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I just feel like the devil is not that creative. So there's certain things that he'll bring during certain spiritual seasons of your life, right? If it's about a season of growth and you're just about to go to another glory, then something will happen or something. So God was just like, be aware of the signs, like notice them, notice the things that are happening in your life. And so because of that, I was just like, I'm not calling, I'm not texting. There's even one time when I was like so curious. I was just like, should I maybe like just call and just be like, okay, cool, you're looking for something specific, like what's up? Do you get what I'm saying? But then I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. I can't call because I'm one of those girls, when I block, or like when I like leave something in my past, like I'm very deliberate about leaving it in my past. No, because even if I've walked away from relationships, I'm like, if I walk away from a relationship specifically, I'm like, I'm walking away from it because there's reasons why I left it, so I don't go back. You get what I'm saying? Not going back to the vomit and going to eat it. You know, like scripture describes as, you know, going back to your old life or going back to old things. It's practically like going back to your old, like a dog going back to its old vomit and eating it again. Ugh, scripture is so descriptive sometimes. But yeah. And so the lessons I suppose is also coming from. So I was like, there's a song in my head. There's a song that says, you've got times and seasons in your end. Nah. Out of mercy, you have called me your own. And then there's another verse or something of the song that says, you don't need a man to be the God you are. And I'm just like, he really doesn't need a man to be the God that he is. But sometimes we try to be the little gods that we are not. Né? And so we want to be in control of certain things that happens in our lives. And I just feel like my encouragement to you today would be, the enemy comes with a strategy of taking you back to your vomit, right? Or he comes with a strategy of allowing you to crave for your Egypts. We all have an Egypt. Né? This is why I love, you know, like old Pentecostal music. There's a lied, man. There's a song that says, kom van ver af from the Here dadin. Like I'm coming from far to serve the Lord. And like when my mothers and these aunties used to sing these songs and choir dance, kom van ver from the Here dadin. It was just like you could really feel it, man. They were like, my goodness, I'm coming from a wretched past. I'm coming from a wretched, wicked life. And I've come so far to come and serve God. Do you get what I'm saying? I've come so far to enter the promised land. And I'm not going back. Do you get what I'm saying? That's practically what the song was like. I'm not going back. And the thing is, the past, at a certain time in your life, the past will look so alluring. Like it will look droppy. Like you could lick it. Né? But you need to be aware that it's just the enemy's way of like trying to distract you from whatever God lays ahead of you. And so if you are craving your Egypt, if you're craving that person in your past, if you're craving who you were in the past, if you're craving an activity that you wanted to do in the past, especially during this time, right? This is one of the times, you know, I feel like spiritually that the enemy tries to draw people back to the past. But one of the things that you must understand is like, especially even when I would saw that block number calling, one of the things that I knew, or that at least the Holy Spirit was like making me aware, is if ever I answer that call, or if ever I pick up the phone to call that number, I would be delayed from my destiny. And the thing is, the enemy, when the scripture says the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, it's not even joking. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And like the devil derails destinies for years, sometimes even generations, just because of our disobedience, just because we're craving for our Egypts, just because we are craving for the pots in Egypt, just because we are craving for the garlic, just because things were a little bit spicier, picky laka, picky in the past. You get what I'm saying? So don't allow the enemy to rob you of your destiny simply because you're craving, right? And this comes to also appreciate the manna. Appreciate what God has given you. It may not seem like it's much, but because God has given it to you, it will sustain you. There's one thing like about the Israelites that God has said, like even the sandals on your feet didn't get old. Imagine like for 40 years, what can you imagine an advert for a sandal that doesn't like, you know, just wear out in 40 years. So God takes care of his own. Even if it seems like very minimal, even if it feels like, I don't have, what if God gives it to you? If it's the manna that God has put in your hands, trust that whether it looks as if it's insufficient, it is sufficient. It's enough for your daily bread. And so, do you get what I'm saying? Go back to Numbers 11. Go read what happened when people crave for other things and just appreciate where you are. And if you are in the loneliness or whatever it is that you're going through, like I always like sit with God with your loneliness. Verstår ni vad jag säger?